So Saul of Tarsus, in Acts chapter 9, Saul of Tarsus is traveling to the city of Damascus. He is on his way to arrest and to put on trial anybody who says that Jesus was the Son of God, that he died, and that he rose again from the dead, and that they believe in him and they believe those things. So anybody who says that they believe those things, Saul is on his way to throw them in jail. And then he's going to try them and most likely stone them. He's doing this because this is what he does. This is who he is. This is the way things are supposed to be. He's been given this charge. And he on his way, out of nowhere, Acts chapter 9 says, this bright, blinding light and this voice from heaven booms and says, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul falls to his knees. Everything has gone up to plan to this point. This is not according to plan. This is not the way that things are supposed to be. Saul, he is wildly intelligent. He is passionately legalistic. He is doing exactly what he is supposed to be doing. He is a Pharisee, and if you were to ask him, he is the best of the Pharisees. He's maybe even the best there ever was. He actually says in Philippians chapter 3, we're going to put it on the screen, in Philippians chapter 3, he says this, he says, I was circumcised when I was 8 days old. I am a pure-blooded citizen of Israel and a member of the tribe of Benjamin, a real Hebrew if ever there was one. He says, I was a member of the Pharisees who demanded the strictest obedience to the Jewish law. He says, I was so zealous that I harshly persecuted the church, and as for righteousness, I obeyed the law without fault. He's saying that he is the best that there ever was. He's like, look, I was the best that there could be. There was nobody, I was following the law the best. I knew all the rules. I knew exactly what to do. I was so good at the law and following the rules, I would get on to anybody who didn't follow the rules. Like I would make sure to put them in their place. And that's exactly what he's doing as he's on the road to Damascus. Now, he is the best, and that reminds me of our superhero we're going to look at today. Tony Stark or Iron Man is the superhero we're going to take a look at today. And in the clip you just saw, it perfectly sums up who Tony Stark is. His ego could not be contained in this room. He is so full of himself. You can see it the way he's got the chiseled features, the cut goatee just perfect, the fancy glasses, the perfect suit on. The way that he stands there as the rocket blast just waves over everybody else and knocks people down. You can see as he just embodies this ego and this I'm the best that there ever was. And a lot of it stems from the failed relationship or the perceived failed relationship between him and his father. You see, he always had this cold, harsh feeling from his dad. He never felt like he was quite good enough, could quite live up to his dad's expectations. And so he carried this baggage, the weight of this failed relationship with him everywhere he went. And so he tried to overcompensate. He tried to do more. He said, Dad, I'm going to be richer than you ever were. I'm going to be smarter than you ever were. Tony Stark graduated from MIT when he was 14 years old. He was brilliant, and he's a billionaire, has it all together. From the outside, it seems as if he has it all put together. But he's trying to overcompensate for that baggage and that weight that he is carrying. And that's where we meet Tony Stark at the beginning of Iron Man. And can I just tell you, while we're at the movies, there is going to be a little bit. I'm gonna kind of tell you the story. I got to tell you the story of Iron Man from the very beginning to the very end. His arc encompasses all the different movies from the Marvel movies. And can I just say, if you haven't seen them, spoiler alert, okay? Like, you need to be prepared to, like, know the story today. And if you haven't seen them, like, come on, what are you waiting on? Like, we were in lockdown for 2 weeks. Like, how did you not just, like, binge all of the Marvel movies? No, actually, I didn't then either, but I have since seen them. But if you haven't seen the movies, I do apologize. I am going to tell a little bit of an ending. And so just when we get to that part, you could just, earmuffs, just cover your ears, and it'll be okay. I'll try to give some warning. But so right after this opening scene from the first Iron Man movie, Iron Man, his convoy is ambushed by terrorists, and he's almost killed. He almost loses his life, and he's thrown into a jail cell, a cave. That's a jail cell with Ho Jensen, and Ho Jensen is a scientist, and he's able to create this contraption that he puts in Tony's chest that that pulls shrapnel away from his heart so it doesn't enter his heart. And he basically saves Tony Stark's life. He saves who will be Iron Man. He saves his life. And so Iron Man, or Tony Stark, and Ho Jensen, they begin to develop this plan of escaping. These are two prisoners of these terrorists, and they concoct this plan to escape from this jail cell, this cave that they're in. And the way they're going to do it is they create the very first prototype of an Iron Man suit. They craft all the scrap metal together, and they create all these weapons, and they put it onto this suit, and they create this thing so that they can use this instrument to escape the captivity that they are in. And while they are doing it, they concoct this plan, and they start launching this plan, and things kind of go wrong when Jensen has to sacrifice his life, and he has to give his life so that Tony can escape. He gives his life up so that Tony can find freedom, and he finds freedom. And Tony really begins to understand and learn while he's in this cave and through this act what it means to not only give your life for somebody else, but it's in this moment that his life begins to change completely. He understands what it means to have somebody give their life for him. It's something that Saul really grabbed a hold of as he was on that road to Damascus. So Saul is walking. He's traveling to Damascus. He's got his cronies with him. He's got all of his guys with him. They are going to get rid of those Christians, those people who say that Jesus is the Son of God. People who say that Jesus is the Son of God, that he died and that he rose from the dead. They have to get rid of them, and Saul is going to be the one to do it. And so he's on his way, and out of nowhere, this bright light, this loud voice says, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" And Saul falls to his knees, and he's overcome, and he can't see. He's blinded by the light. And he says, "Lord, who are you? Who is this voice that is speaking to me from the heavens?" Nobody else can hear this voice. Only Saul can hear it. He says, "Who are you?" And the voice says, "I am Jesus, the one that you are persecuting." And from there, Saul is led into the city, and he goes to a house he's directed to, and he sits for 3 days, and for 3 days he can't see, he doesn't eat or drink, as he wrestles with what has just happened to him, as he wrestles with, who is this Jesus really? I thought I knew who he was. I thought he was just this crazy zealot. I thought he didn't really matter, and I was going to try to end everything that he'd done on earth. But now he is wrestling with, man, this Jesus, he is the Son of God. I understand and begin to wrestle with what was happening. The Bible says that a man came and visited him and prayed for him, and as he prayed for him, scales fell from Saul's eyes, and he really began to see. And he really not only began to see physically, he began to see spiritually as well. He really began to understand that this Jesus had sacrificed his life for him as well. Just like Jensen had sacrificed his life for Tony Stark, Jesus sacrificed his life for Saul. And Saul really began to understand what it means to be loved by Jesus 3,000. So Tony Stark, at the end of the Iron Man, first Iron Man movie, he has become Iron Man. Him and Iron Man, they are the same. They are one and the same. And he begins to go on all kinds of crazy adventures, saving the world at every turn. And throughout every movie and every story we see, he's teaming up with different people. He surrounds himself with a team. He really begins to join together with others and really save the world. And he is beginning to shed off all of this baggage that he's been carrying, all this, this not being good enough for his dad. And in one movie we see he actually time travels, which you can only do in the movies, and he goes and he's able to meet his dad, and he talks with his dad about, and he begins to realize that his dad really did care for him and really did love him. And as he begins to shed this baggage, he really begins to understand what love really is. And in this scene with his daughter, as he says to her, "I love you tons," and she looks back at him and she says, "I love you 3,000. Tony really begins to understand in that moment, this is a love unlike anything else. And he begins to understand this is a love that is bigger than himself. And it's not just a love that is from a daughter to a father or a father to a daughter. It is a love that encompasses all that he does and all that he is. It encompasses his very life. It's not just the love and emotion feeling. It's a love that is bigger than anything he could ever imagine. It's this love that causes him to develop into this person that he is supposed to be. It's this love that is all-encompassing. It's almost like, you know, at Christmas when you watch the movie, the Grinch movie, has anybody seen that movie? Like the original one, like the shorter one that's on TV every Christmas, and the old school one. My kids, man, they They love that movie so much that somehow we find ourselves watching it in like July as well. And they ask for it, and you can only say no so many times, and especially when it's the fourth kid that's asking, and it's like, yeah, whatever, you're the fourth anyway, so just you get what you want always, but not really. But he's always the one that seems to ask the most for that movie. He loves The Grinch, and so we watch it constantly. But I'm always amazed by this one scene where in the movie, the Grinch has decided he's going to take Christmas away from Whoville. And so he goes down and he steals all their presents, their Christmas trees. He steals the roast beast. There is nothing left in the house. And he is convinced that this is going to be the thing that stops Christmas from coming. But he's at the top of the mountain. He's got his sleigh full of toys, and it's overloaded with everything. And he begins to hear the people of Whoville. They begin to sing. And he realizes that he couldn't stop Christmas from coming, and it came anyways. And as he is realizing what Christmas really is, it's so much bigger than just a present, the narrator shows an x-ray of the heart of the Grinch. And you see as his heart begins to grow and grow and grow and grow to the point where it breaks the frame of the x-ray that you're seeing. It just grows and grows and grows. I think that's a perfect summary of what Tony Stark as Iron Man is experiencing as he is growing and developing into exactly who he's supposed to be. This Iron Man, this man that is going to save the world, this man who is beginning to understand what I love you 3000 actually is. And it grows and grows and grows and grows until the point where at the end of this whole series, we see that he finally gets to fulfill the thing that he was made to do. And we're going to see it in this last clip we have this morning. I told you there were going to be spoilers, and here's where they are. So Thanos is the ultimate bad guy. He is the destroyer of worlds, and so he is able to capture these infinity stones, these stones that give you unlimited power. You're able to create and destroy at the flick of a wrist. And he is so determined, his goal in life is to wipe out the earth entirely. He's going to do away with it completely. And so in the moment at the beginning of the clip we just saw, they've been at this battle, he's been trying to do that, and the Avengers, Iron Man, and all of his teammates have been trying to stop that from happening. And to the point where Iron Man, Tony Stark, he wrestles with Thanos, is able to capture those Infinity Stones, and he holds them. And so when Thanos thinks he's about to destroy everything, it doesn't happen. And then Tony, he says, I am Iron Man, snaps his fingers, and everything that Thanos has tried to do, all the bad guys, they go away. All the darkness, the despair, everything that is negative or wrong, it begins to just melt away and fall away, along with Thanos, the ultimate bad guy himself. But the only problem is that Tony is human, like you and me. He isn't this thing that Thanos is. And his body isn't able to contain the magnitude of these stones. It's not able to contain the heaviness and the weight of these stones. So when Iron Man snapped his fingers, yes, it saved the world, but it also ended the life of Tony Stark. It ended the life of Iron Man. He understood what it meant to give of himself. Saul, who up until this point, he has only really thought about how he can best follow the law, how he can best follow all the rules, he's doing it right, has this life-changing, monumental moment with Jesus on the road to Damascus. And he's so overcome with this love 3000, this love that is so much bigger than himself, that he can't contain it. And so now everywhere he goes, he's going to tell people about how awesome Jesus is, and how wonderful Jesus is, and how wonderful this love that is bigger than themselves is. And so Paul begins to travel from city to city, and he begins to group people together and start communities of believers. He begins to tell one person and 3 people and 5 people and 10 people and 1,000 people about who Jesus is in a certain area, and he groups them together. And then he says, all right, now you guys, you're going to be okay, but I'm going to go over here now. I'm going to tell these people about Jesus as well. And so for years, everywhere he goes, he tells people about Jesus. And when he leaves that area, a church is planted and started at the place that he was at. He does this all the way until he is arrested and his life is taken from him. The story of Paul, who Saul becomes Paul because his life is so radically changed that his very identity has to be changed, and his name changes from Saul to Paul. Paul and Iron Man, they share 3 realizations that I think that we need to understand and really need to grab today. The first one of those is that we need self-sacrifice. You and I, we need self-sacrifice. Iron Man, he got it because he saw it from the very beginning. When Jensen gave his life so that Iron Man could live and so Tony Stark could escape that cave, he saw it firsthand what it meant to have self-sacrifice. He saw it so much and began to realize it so much that he then did it himself when he gave his life so that the world could be saved. Paul got it as well. He understood in Philippians chapter 3, he says this. He says, I once thought these things were valuable, but now I consider them worthless because what Christ has done. Yes, everything else is worthless when compared with the infinite value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. For his sake, I have discarded everything else, counting it all as garbage, so that I could gain Christ and become one with him. I no longer count on my own righteousness through obeying the law. Rather, I become righteous through faith in Christ. Paul understood so much that we need self-sacrifice that he lived it out every single day. He said, nothing else matters. Nothing else in this life matters. My own selfish wants and selfish desires do not matter. The only thing that matters is who Christ Jesus is and what he wants to do with my life. This is something that Iron Man understood. This is something that Paul literally lived out every single day. What does it mean for us? We need self-sacrifice. We need to understand that, man, this world, this life is not built so that we can have our own selfish desires met. How much greater would the world be if we realized that we need self-sacrifice and begin to walk that out every single day? You know, so often we say things like, wouldn't the world be so much better? Let's say it like this. How much better would your household be if you lived a life that recognized that we need self-sacrifice? That we need to not think of our selfish desires, our selfish needs, our selfish wants, and focus on what Christ has for us today. Not just focus on what am I going to get out of today. Not just focus on what am I going to get to do today. But instead starting the day with, Christ, what do you have for me today? What do you have for me to do today? What can I do to deny myself today and to reflect you? So the first realization we see is that we need self-sacrifice. The second one we see is that we need each other. Iron Man never fought by himself. From the very beginning, in the very first movie, when him and Jensen are fighting together to escape that cave, to the very last movie, the very end, when he is fighting with an entire army against the dark forces, he realizes that he needs a team and he needs to do it with others. Paul got this as well. Everywhere he went, he would group people together and say, hey, come over here. Hey, come over here. Let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you how awesome this guy is. Their lives would be changed. And then he would say, all right, you're a community of believers. You need to partner together and you need to lift one another up. He would say things like, you need to keep building each other up so that you can finish this race, so that you can have an endurance to make it all the way to the end. You need each other because you're going to need to build one another up and carry one another's burdens. We need each other. This church, this community of believers, we need each other. We need each other to say, hey, you're going to make it. You're going to do it. You're going to finish this race, and you're going to finish well, and you're going to finish strong. We need to be able to say, gosh, I see that you're hurting. I see that you have a loss in your life. I see that you have a need. Let me help carry that burden for you. Let me help lift you up in prayer. Let me help carry some of that weight for you. When we see somebody fall and we see somebody in the need of grace and mercy, we say, it's going to be okay. We extend that grace. We extend that mercy, and we say it's going to be okay because we're here for each other. If the pandemic has taught us anything at all, it's that we need each other, without a doubt. First realization is we need self-sacrifice. Second one is we need each other. The third is we need I love you 3,000. This is something that it defined Iron Man's life. When his daughter said it to him, it was a realization because it just wrapped up all of the feelings that he had been growing in and beginning to feel. It caused him to really put a definition on this love that was bigger than himself, and he lived it out. He lived it out so much that it was his final words. His final words were, I love you 3,000. final words are a big deal. They are life-defining. Paul got this as well. In some of his final written words in Philippians, some of his last words that he wrote down, he said in Philippians 4:13, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." That is I love you 3000. That's what that is. That's that summation of that, all that he had walked in his whole life. From the moment of that Damascus Road experience, he had walked that out. And he understood it's through Jesus that I can do anything. It's through that I love you 3000 that anything can be done. That I'm actually who I'm supposed to be. Have you had that? Do you carry that? We need I love you 3000. Do you embody that love that is so much bigger than yourself that it just can't help but explode onto others and flow onto others' lives? Have you had that Damascus Road experience? That experience where it's almost as if this light that was the brightest thing you've ever seen, this voice booming from heaven, speaks to you and your life has changed forever. We need to embody that I love you 3000 love. That love that is so much bigger than ourselves. 3 realizations. We need each other. We need self-sacrifice. We need each other. We need I love you 3000. You could say that there is a theme to the life of Paul and Iron Man, and they're one and the same. At the end of the escape, as Iron Man and Jensen are escaping from the cave at the very beginning of the first Iron Man movie, Jensen knows he's about to die, and Tony Stark looks at Jensen, and he says, "Thank you for saving me." The life of Paul could be summed up in that same way. If you look at his life, it seems as if it was a reflection where to Jesus he would say, "Thank you for saving me." That is the theme of the life that they walk. That is the theme of what to do with their life. It's the thing that happens next. It's the message that Paul would have for you and the message that Jensen said back to Iron Man that are meaningful to us today. As Jensen was dying and Iron Man looked at him and he said, "Thank you for saving me," Jensen looked back at Iron Man and he said, "Don't waste your life." I think Paul would look at us today, and if he could, he would say to us, "Don't waste your life." And Paul, in his last words, in his last written words, told us how not to do that, how not to waste our life. In Philippians chapter 4, starting in verse 4, "Always be full of the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming soon. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise." Paul says, don't waste your life. He says, here's 3 things you can do to not do that. Walk in the joy of the Lord. If you realize that we need self-sacrifice, you realize that we need each other, and you realize that we need I love you 3000, then you get to walk daily in the joy of the Lord. Walk in that confidence of who God is in your life. Walk in that joy that things are going to be okay. Because then, Paul says, talk to God about what's going on. Don't talk to God and give Him a laundry list of the things that you want and you desire. Instead, talk to Him about the things that you actually need and how you want Him to work in your life and how you can be used by Him. And finally, if you do that, His peace will give us protection if we continuously focus on who He is. So if we walk in the joy of the Lord and talk to Him daily, then His peace will give us protection. As I look around, I think so often we try to get on and get by in our own peace. We try to get by on our own way. But Paul says, no. If you focus on His peace, then it's going to give you the protection that you need in this life.
Hey, what's up, North Highland? It's Pastor Clayton here, and we are so thankful that you chose to watch this message today. We'd love for you to like it, comment on it, share it with a friend, and subscribe to this channel today. Man, there are so many different ways that you can keep up with us on all of our social media platforms, on our website. It's because of what you do that we're able to do what we do. So thanks so much for being a part of our online community, and we'll see you soon.